on Friday, ABC News' Brian Ross reported that Michael Flynn would testify that President Trump directed him to make contact with Russian officials. That report was found to be inaccurate after it sent markets into a tailspin, falling over 300 points at one point in the day. So, Nick, back to you. Agree or disagree? ABC needs to do more than suspend Brian Ross over the inaccurate Trump-Flynn report.
I think they do have to do more. I think the suspension for him is adequate. 4 weeks without pay. It sends a message. But I think they need to change their guidelines in reporting. This seems to happen with a lot of the networks and with a lot of the news media, where they'll practice yellow journalism. Their politics, their agenda, it leaks into the news, and they try to push a political angle, and that's not right. I mean, if you're going to come out with a report like that, you better vet it, get other veteran journalists to look at it. Editors signed off on this thing, producers, and it went through, and then they got caught and they apologized. So it seems like all you need to do is slap the reporter with a 3 or 4 week suspension, but it hasn't changed the culture. So I think if they keep to the suspension and he does something down the line and they remember this and they change the culture from within, then it'll stick. But if they just keep slapping reporters on the wrist when they practice yellow journalism, our media is not going to get any better.
Okay, so that's an agree from you, Nick. Let's toss it to you, Emma. What are your thoughts here?
I disagree to an extent. I think 4 weeks without pay is a sufficient punishment for Brian Ross, but I would also say that the culture needs to change. ABC News doesn't necessarily need to do more in themselves, but the entire news media needs to look at the Russia investigation as a very important story, but not this reality show that they've been treating it as. There are a ton of other important stories in the country. Income inequality continues to skyrocket. This tax bill favors corporations and wealthy individuals way more than it does the middle class and the poor. Opioid addiction, marijuana legalization, mass incarceration. I'm just listing a variety of other topics that they could focus on instead of Russia 24/7 on these networks. That's what fueled this inaccurate reporting, was this race to get this information. It's more of a reality show and news infotainment than it actually is informing people about what's important in the country.
Yeah, well, with President Trump, go ahead, Nick. Do you have one last thing you want to throw in there?
I was just cheering her on. I was just saying that's very well said. Like, yeah. I agree. The culture's rotted out, and they're focused on one-trick pony when we have so many problems. So I think she nailed it.
Right, and plus, with President Trump, continuously talking about fake news, this gives him just more fuel and ammunition to continue to go after reporters for that. Okay, let's move on, guys. A jury in California, of course, last week acquitted Jose Zarate, the undocumented immigrant accused of killing Kate Steinle back in 2015. Now, her death had sparked a national debate about harboring immigrants in sanctuary cities. Now that debate has actually been reignited after that big verdict. So, Emma, let's go back to you. Agree to disagree? The jury was dead wrong in the Kate Steinle verdict.
It's hard for me to speculate when I wasn't in that room. I don't want to do the irresponsible thing and say that, oh, they were dead wrong, because I don't have all the facts. I wasn't on that jury, so I don't have the facts. But I will say that the Justice Department, I think that they're doing their due diligence in following up on this story. Even though it is a politically convenient story for that Justice Department, it doesn't mean that the federal government shouldn't look into this case, because there seem to be a lot of questions.
Yeah, she brings up a great point. Nick, we don't know all the facts. We weren't jurors in this case, but on face value, everything seemed to be that this was a slam dunk, that this should have been a situation that should have been in Kate Steinle's family's favor.
Yes, I think they were wrong, because he not only admitted to shooting her, but he had 7 previous felony convictions and 5 deportations. So not only did they let down the family, they let down the city, this jury, with the verdict, they let down the country. I think it shines a light on the issue of immigration, that the idea of open borders, it has a real human cost. This issue is life and death. And some people, I think the verdict, in essence, will only make those voices louder. The people that want the wall, the people that want more stricter immigration, they're just going to be more upset. They're going to keep pushing. And these are the people that put Trump in office. This is the case that sparked his campaign. So I do think they failed the American people on this, and again, to satisfy a political agenda.
So as Baker mentioned, a lot of conversations reigniting over the wall again this weekend after this news reemerged. I want to move on to another headline that came across as well. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn testified that 2 senior transition officials urged him to contact the Russians. A number of sources have claimed one of those officials is Jared Kushner. So, Nick, let's stay with you for a moment. Agree or disagree? Jared is the next target on Robert Mueller's list.
Yes, I think he is. And I think Mueller, to keep the investigation going, he needs another big win. He needs to keep the streak going. And with Kushner, you have someone that's high profile. You have someone that's connected very closely to Trump. It's his family. But I hope he's ready for the gloves to come off, because I think once you go after a member of Trump's family, not just the White House, it's going to become a tit-for-tat battle. And I don't know where that ends, to be honest. I don't know what the Trump White House is going to do to counter that, but I know they're not just going to sit there. So if he really does go after Kushner, I think he should make this the full court press and make this it's either all or nothing. He's had months to go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, I was just going to interject. You bring up an amazing point, because we know with Paul Manafort and even with Michael Flynn and even with George Papadopoulos, President Trump and the camp and the administration have always said either low-level interns or these were rogue individuals. I mean, how could you spin potentially somebody that would be, a member of that is a member of your own family then?
You can't. You get something to stick on Kushner and you're Mueller, you're going to have this thing. It's going to finally be going. I happen to think that I don't think they're going to get enough on him to make it stick. I think you would have found out that smoking gun thus far, but still, if he can get anything to stick on Kushner, it's going to be a black eye for the administration, and it's going to carry through, I think, all the way to the end of the term.
And we have seen how protective Trump has been of his family members in this, so it'll be interesting to watch that. Emma, I want to bring you into this as well.
Yeah, I do agree he'll be the next person on the list of Mueller. But I think that this confirms that what Mueller is also looking at are the financial dealings between the Trump family and the Russian government that have gone back to before he was even running for president. Trump had multiple bankruptcies. He had a problem getting loans in the United States, so he got money from Deutsche Bank, and he had the server in Pennsylvania with Alpha Bank. Clearly, there's some financial links between the Trump family, their real estate empire, which Kushner is obviously involved in, and the Russian government. I do think that that's where this investigation is going to lead. Election meddling is way harder to prove, and I don't think that we've seen as much evidence of that as we have of the financial dealings. So I think that's where this investigation is going to lead. I think that's what this focus on Kushner is pointing towards.
All right, we just have a little bit of time left, so we're going to get one more quick one, guys. Senate Republicans, of course, coming off a big week of a big win for tax reform last week, but they only approved the bill with one vote in the Senate. That, of course, makes the Alabama Senate race in 2 weeks even more important, not to mention President Trump just endorsed Roy Moore this morning by name. So, Emma, let's finish with you. Agree or disagree? The Senate passing tax reform actually gives Roy Moore a boost in the Alabama Senate race.
Well, I think that the Alabama voters are at least giving him a boost. I read last night that 71% of Alabama Republicans do not believe the allegations against Roy Moore, despite them being substantiated. And, that's an incredibly depressing statistic. I think that tax reform is really unpopular, so I don't know how it would really give him a boost, because even populist Republicans don't like that this bill is a handout to corporations and to the wealthy. The bill has a 5 to 20% approval rating, and a lot of people just don't like it across the board. So I don't know if it would give him a boost. I just think that perhaps the skepticism towards the media and towards the establishment is what's giving him a boost more than anything.
Yeah, and apparently 6 in 10 white women in Alabama still support Roy Moore as well. Nick, let's give you the last word on this.
Yeah, I think it helps because it shows that the GOP can still pass legislation with 51 votes. I mean, they were so stalled on major issues that I could have seen some people saying, well, what's the difference between Roy Moore in that seat and a Democrat if they can't pass anything with the slim margin of votes they have? But this shows that they can at least come together on something, and that seat is still important to keeping the majority in GOP hands. So, and also it distracts from Moore's issue in and of itself. When they're talking about tax reform, they're not talking about the allegations. So, yeah, I think it does give him a boost, and combined with Trump and the positive momentum, I still think he's going to pull out a close one.